The reel begins at 2:13 a.m. Grainy footage, a rusted gate, half sunk in the Louisiana swamp. A man's voice, faint and quivering, says, "They said he don't talk, but he's still listening." Then silence. A shadow, enormous, human-shaped, lurches past the edge of the frame. The camera drops. Static. No record of who filmed it or who found the reel survives. But the property is real, the Bellmare Plantation, parish of Iberia. Abandoned since 1871, condemned since 1904. And it's where 9 men, each claiming ownership of the same field, died choking, windpipes shattered as though crushed by a single massive hand. No witnesses. Only a name carved into the cellar wall. Jacob. Before it became ruin, Bellmare was prosperity incarnate. Cotton. Indigo. Bodies. Records show 143 enslaved workers by 1830. Among them, one name written not in ink, but in burnt ash. Jacob. 7 feet. Silent. He never spoke. Never cried out. Children whispered that his throat was burned closed after a punishment no one dared describe. The ledgers list him as mute labor stock, but the overseer's journal adds, eyes like no man, no fear of whip. By 1833, 3 overseers were dead, each with their tracheas crushed. The plantation claimed accident. The parish sheriff said God's will, but the slaves began calling him something else. Big Jacob, the quiet storm. No birds sang at Bellmare. No dogs barked. The silence, they said, followed Jacob. One journal from the plantation preacher records that the air itself stiffens in his shadow. Workers refused to stand within 10 feet of him, but no one reported seeing him strike. The men who died were all found kneeling, faces frozen mid-prayer, windpipes pulverized inward. No struggle, no sound. And each time it happened, the plantation bells rang by themselves. The 3:03 a.m., always the same hour. On June 11, 1836, the 9th Master of Bellmare, Colonel Nathaniel Goss, called a prayer meeting to purge the demon of rebellion. Witnesses reported he forced Jacob to his knees before 30 slaves and recited verses of obedience. Lightning struck the cross behind them. Moments later, the colonel's throat caved in as if seized by invisible force. The others ran. Jacob stood, unmoving, blood and rain dripping from his arms, though he held no weapon. He looked to the heavens, lips unmoving. And then he walked into the swamp. He was never seen alive again. Plantation ledgers end abruptly that summer. The property changed hands 9 times in 20 years. Every owner died within months, each of suffocation. In 1852, one man sealed the slave quarters, buried the cellars, and built a chapel over the foundation. But the workers still whispered of footsteps in the mud. Slow, heavy, wet. Children were warned, don't speak Jacob's name after dark. He listens for it. Locals stopped calling it Bellmare. They renamed it simply the Quiet Place. In 1921, the Historical Society of Baton Rouge cataloged surviving records from Bellmare. 2 weeks later, the archive burned. Only one photograph survived, a group of field workers, blurred except for one towering figure at the edge. No facial features, just height, and eyes that seemed aware of the camera. The archivist who saved the photo, Henry Lowell, wrote in his final note, "I thought I saw it move when I blinked. I am leaving the state." He was found dead 3 days later, lungs filled with marsh water, though he lived 40 miles from the nearest swamp. After the war, the plantation became an orphan refuge run by the Order of the Silent Cross, a small church charity. 37 children taken from freed families, raised to rebuild with purity. Survivors later testified the children were forbidden to speak for days at a time, as penance. In 1888, a census taker recorded the orphanage population as 37. In 1889, it listed 28. No burial records, no explanation, only one phrase scratched into the chapel floorboards. He still watches us work. In 1902, a missionary from the order recorded oral hymns on wax cylinders. Cylinder 4 is unlike the others. No music, just breathing, and then a deep exhale, followed by a faint sound like bones snapping underwater. At the 33-second mark, a voice, impossibly low, murmurs a single word, "Master." Experts later confirmed the vibration patterns exceeded human frequency range, more like seismic motion than speech. The cylinder was sealed. The recording labeled simply, "Do not play aloud." Project Ash Grove, Containment of Folkloric Entities, Louisiana Sector. A real memorandum, dated 1938, declassified in fragments. Agents describe residual psychic phenomena around Bellmare ruins. 3 men reportedly vanished investigating the underground tunnels. Only their radios remained, still transmitting faint, rhythmic breathing. One surviving agent wrote, "The air feels like someone's hand around your throat. Tight, deliberate, patient." Bellmare was sealed under federal quarantine until 1952. From field recordings, a song survives. Big Jacob walk slow, don't make no sound. He count 9 masters under the ground. The Library of Congress later removed the tape after reports of unease among archivists. When played backward, researchers say you can hear another verse, hidden under the static. He don't forgive, he just wait. No one has identified the singer, but the voice is not entirely human. In 1949, folklorist Mary Robeson visited Iberia Parish to document the Jacob legend. She located descendants of the plantation's enslaved families. They refused to speak on record. One old woman finally whispered, "We still leave food at the old gate. Don't want him hungry." Robeson's field notes end abruptly mid-sentence. "If I don't answer by dawn, the rest is torn away." Her car was found the next day, doors locked from inside, windshield shattered outward. In 1951, a group of seminary students broke into the chapel ruins. They found the stone cross inverted, roots grown around its base. Beneath it, carved in precise symmetrical strokes, an Egyptian ankh modified with chains through the loop. No known slave origin uses it. One student, James Keller, later claimed it glowed faintly when touched, and that he heard breathing through the floorboards. He spent the rest of his life institutionalized, repeating, "He waits for the 9th bell." The plantation's bell tower collapsed in 1864, yet locals still hear it some nights. Always at 3:03 a.m. Always 9 tolls. Acoustics experts say the sound can't originate locally, yet recordings prove it's real, faint, metallic, and distant. Every documented bell night corresponds with an unexplained death in the parish, throat trauma. 0 external bruising. A doctor once suggested mass hysteria, but hysteria doesn't leave crushed cartilage. Recovered from the swamp in 1967, the leather-bound journal of Brother Matthias reads, "He is not ghost. He is justice without language. We taught him silence, and silence is all he gives back." The last entry simply says, "The bell rings soon. I must not speak his name." The handwriting trails off into a deep, pressed line, as though the pen was forced through the paper. In 2004, a university anthropology team reopened the Bellmare site for soil study. Their equipment failed every night between 3 o'clock and 3:06 a.m. Thermal imaging caught a humanoid shape, 7 feet tall, with body temperature below freezing. The next morning, all 9 team members resigned. Their report file is marked, "Lost due to data corruption." But one email leaked years later. "He doesn't need chains now. He has our silence." A rusted door recovered from the cellar bears a single blackened handprint, far larger than any known human. Lab results show the residue is a compound of carbon and human bone dust. The print's position suggests someone was pushing inward, from the other side. When displayed at the Parish Museum in 2011, visitors complained of tightness in the chest and difficulty breathing. The exhibit was closed after a curator collapsed. Her last words, "He's still working the fields." Officially, Bellmare was submerged during levee redirection in 1952. Unofficially, aerial photographs show the main house roofline above the water even decades later. Locals say the river refuses to drown it. Divers report the structure is gone, But something moves beneath the silt. Something large, shaped like a man. Each year, the riverbank gains one new grave, marked only with a small wooden cross and a single letter, J. Every documented Bellmare death from 1833 to 2015 aligns with cycles of 9 years. 9 deaths, 9 bells, each the 9th generation of ownership, scholarship, or descent from a man who held that land. It's as if Jacob's retribution operates on arithmetic rather than time, an equation of breath and silence. Historians refuse interviews, but the correlation remains exact. 9. Always 9. When producers restored this very documentary audio, they found a low frequency under 30 Hz below normal hearing. It forms the shape of a human voice print, and when analyzed, that voice print spells a single name in waveform mapping. Jacob, the engineer who discovered it, suffered a stroke mid-edit. His last file note reads, "It's not a story, it's a recording. Bellmare lies underwater now, or so they say. But when the 9th bell tolls, the river goes still. No frogs, no insects, just silence. And if you stand long enough by that quiet water, you might see a ripple rise, shaped like a hand reaching upward. He does not seek vengeance. He reminds, because the land remembers every command, every scream, every silence forced upon it. And Jacob is the silence that remembers you back."